the unshakable faith that toppled a giant. Lessons from David and Goliath. When we think of the most extraordinary battles ever recorded in human history, one stands out above the rest: the epic showdown between David and Goliath in the Bible. This isn't just a tale of bravery, it's a story of unwavering faith, divine intervention, and the triumph of a believer's heart over overwhelming odds. Let's set the scene. On one side, there's Goliath, a seasoned warrior and the pride of the Philistine army. Towering over his enemies at nearly 10 feet tall, he was a giant both in stature and in reputation. Clad in heavy bronze armor with a massive spear in hand, Goliath was an intimidating sight. His presence alone struck fear into the hearts of the Israelite army. For 40 days he stepped forward, mocking the Israelite army and daring anyone to challenge him. His taunts were relentless, designed to break the spirit of the Israelites and shake their faith in God. But fear paralyzed the Israelites. To them, Goliath was an impossible foe, a symbol of their own limitations. They saw his size, his strength, and his confidence, and they shrank back, forgetting the power of the God they served. On the other side, there's David, a young shepherd, not a soldier, and the youngest of his brothers. He wasn't at the battlefield to fight. He was sent by his father to bring food to his brothers. Yet, when David arrived and heard Goliath's blasphemous taunts against God and his people, something stirred within him. David's faith was greater than his fear, and his trust in the Lord gave him courage. While the soldiers trembled and looked at Goliath's size, David saw something else. He saw an opportunity for God's power to be revealed. To David, Goliath was not just a giant warrior, but an affront to the living God. His confidence came not from arrogance, but from a deep understanding of who God is and what God can do. When David declared his intention to fight Goliath, he was met with skepticism. Even King Saul doubted him, offering David his own armor. But David refused. He wasn't relying on human strength or military tactics. His weapon was simple: a sling, 5 smooth stones, and a heart completely devoted to God. The battlefield must have been tense as the young shepherd stepped forward, alone, without armor or sword. Goliath, towering over him, sneered in contempt. "Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks?" the giant roared, mocking David. But David was undeterred. He responded with words that echo through history. "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head." All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. In that moment, David declared that the battle belonged not to him, but to the Lord. His words were not just a proclamation of faith, but a declaration of victory before the fight even began. As Goliath advanced, David reached into his bag, took out a stone, and slung it with precision. The stone struck Goliath on the forehead, sinking deep into his skull. The mighty giant fell face down to the ground. The Philistine army watched in stunned silence as their champion lay defeated. David ran over, took Goliath's own sword, and cut off his head, sealing the victory. This incredible story isn't just about an underdog defeating a giant. It's a powerful reminder of what can happen when we place our trust in God. David's victory wasn't about his skill or strength. It was about his faith. He believed that the God who had helped him protect his sheep from lions and bears would also deliver him from Goliath. And God did. The story of David and Goliath teaches us that no obstacle is too great when we rely on God. It reminds us that the battles we face in life, whether they're physical, emotional, or spiritual, are not ours to fight alone. When we step out in faith, trusting that God is with us, we can overcome the impossible. David's courage and confidence came from his relationship with God. He knew God's power because he had experienced it before. This is why it's so important for us to cultivate our own relationship with God. Spend time in prayer, read His Word, and remember the times He has been faithful in your life. These moments will strengthen your faith and prepare you for the battles ahead. So what does this mean for us today? Perhaps you're facing your own Goliath. It might be a challenge that feels insurmountable, a fear that keeps you paralyzed, or a situation that seems hopeless. Remember David's example. Instead of focusing on the size of the problem, focus on the greatness of your God. Stand firm in faith, knowing that the same God who delivered David is with you. He is faithful, and He is able. Let's dive deeper into what David's story teaches us about faith and preparation. David didn't arrive at the battlefield unprepared. Though he was young, his years as a shepherd had trained him. He had defended his flock against lions and bears, and he did so with the same sling and stones he carried into battle against Goliath. These experiences, though seemingly unrelated, were part of God's preparation for David's greater calling. Sometimes the challenges we face in our daily lives are God's way of equipping us for the battles to come. When we remain faithful in the small things, God uses them to prepare us for greater victories. The story of David and Goliath is a timeless reminder that faith, no matter how small it may seem, can move mountains. It's about trusting God's plan, even when the odds are against you. It's about stepping forward with courage, knowing that you're not alone. And it's about giving God the glory for every victory. As we reflect on this epic battle, let's take heart and be inspired by David's faith. Let his story encourage us to face our own giants with confidence, trusting that God will deliver us. No matter how big the challenge, remember, the battle belongs to the Lord. Drop an amen if you believe, and may God bless you as you walk in faith